12:05 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. Always great to hear that music because it means the music of your life is about your life today and the things that we're talking about on Helping Seniors of Brevard. And to get things underway, here's the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the executive director. I always like to say a daily double there. And let's introduce Kerry Fink. Kerry?
Hey, John Harper. Thank you. It's always great to be here Wednesday lunchtime on the radio, 90.3 WEJF FM. And wonderful to welcome you if you're listening online at wejf.net. And for those of you who find us as a podcast, thank you for hunting us down and enjoying Helping Seniors Radio. We like to get together and do our lunchtime Wednesday gathering because we get to talk about all things senior. In fact, that's what I was thinking about when we were talking about the really excellent show that we have ahead for you today. We want to talk about making life better for seniors. And we have some real experts in the house. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce a longtime friend of us. And I want you to listen because she'll probably have a British accent as she says hello on the radio. This is none other than Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors.
It is a great day to be here. Thank you so much. He's teasing me because I just got back from England last night.
Yes, so now it's like high tea time, right? Because it's like 5 p.m. or something in Great Britain.
It is. Where's my scone?
I heard that. Well, so let me brag on Jennifer for just a minute. In addition to being named the Women Who Rock, that was your award, right?
Yes. Very fun award.
Yeah, but literally you and your mom put together a company called Seniors Helping Seniors of Brevard. Well, I mean, I realize it's a national company, but you guys are the folks here. And for years, you have served seniors by hiring seniors to help with things around the house and do what's called companion care. And you keep getting recognized. I just saw where you guys were nominated again in the USA Today. Talk about that.
Yes. So Best of Brevard, we are in the top 5 for home care, which is amazing because we do have a lot of home care companies here in Brevard County that do what we do at Homemaker Companion, but that also do the hands-on care, Medicare-based home health. So there's a lot of home care companies here. So just to be named in the top 5 is phenomenal. And I'll just put a shameless plug in here. You can go and vote for your favorite home care agency now through, I think, May 30th. So we would love your vote. Go in Florida Today. There's a link there. There's a link on our website, on our Facebook page. And vote for the little engine that could, because some of the other companies are huge national companies. So to be in the presence of those companies for our little company is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I can't wait. We have a very special guest. I can't wait to introduce her, but I just want to add one more thing to what Jennifer is speaking about, Seniors Helping Seniors. You know, the thing I think that we talk about so much when Joe Steckler, our president and founder, put Helping Seniors together as a nonprofit, and this comes on all of his experience of having built up not only his last command in the Navy, he's a retired Navy captain, and his last command in the Navy was the retirement home for the Navy in Gulfport, Mississippi. And then when he and his lovely wife, Terry, decided they were going to retire to Satellite Beach, Florida, although Joe couldn't stay retired, so he goes off and starts working on behalf of seniors all those years ago. We're talking about in the 90s now. He establishes the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation, gets all that rolling, then comes along and creates Helping Seniors, who we're into our 13th year. But the point that I wanted to get back to is that Joe has always talked about the importance of local resources when you're trying to confront aging things. And so one of the things we talk about with a lot of things, like people sometimes will see an ad on national TV, and so they say, oh, I liked seeing that actor on my favorite TV show, so I'm going to trust him for Medicare, or I'm going to trust him for reverse mortgage, or I'm going to trust him for insert whatever service there. And I'm not saying that those guys may not be trying to be helpful, but they're not the same as talking to somebody who's in your neighborhood, who knows what's going on, who sees kind of like boots on the ground, if you will, everything that happens. And Jennifer, that's one of the things that you do, and actually all the people who are in the in our, we call it Joe's Senior Resource Center, our office space there in the Omni Healthcare building. That's kind of the nature of it. Everybody is local. We're your neighbors, right?
Exactly. And it's great to be in that Senior Resource Center because we all work together for the benefit of the senior. And it's a lot of fun to be there because we go back and forth quite a bit of, well, this client is not really a great fit for me. I think you could do a better job, and we'll make sure that the client gets the best service possible. So that part, I absolutely love being in there for. But yeah, we're all working together for seniors, and it is all local. So we know exactly what the climate is here in Brevard because it's different here in Brevard than it is down in Miami or up in New York. Florida is much different than other states, and Brevard County has its own unique things going on. So it's good to have someone who's local who understands where things are and kind of the lay of the land.
That's a perfect lead-in for me to introduce our very special guest here. She has really become a real driving force here in Brevard County. We call the show Making Life Better for Seniors. And I first met her because she serves on the Brevard Commission of Aging, which is a great group that Dr. Potomsky heads up. It's actually officially sanctioned by the Brevard County Board of Commissioners. And we get together once a month. For me personally, I'm always learning about new things that's going on. But I met her through that. Then I come to find out that she's actually also the vice mayor, two-term now, for the city of Melbourne and represents one of the districts there. And then I go online and I do two things. I go check out, whenever like I'm trying to figure out how we're going to introduce somebody, I go online. So I check out Yvonne Minus's LinkedIn page, and it says retired. Well, she'd had a huge career in I guess you would call it the IT world. Am I saying that right, Yvonne?
Yes.
And then when you pull up this page and you see all the different things that she's done, but her LinkedIn page says retired. I'm going, you're the farthest thing from retired I've ever seen, because I'm just going to read a couple. I'm going to cherry pick because there must be like 20 of these. So in addition to being vice mayor and representing its District 3, right,
Yes.
council member for the city of Melbourne, you serve on the Brevard Commission on Aging, which is where I'm familiar with it. There's a thing called the Space Coast League of Cities. Am I saying that right? And then you're part of all that. And then this thing goes on forever and ever. And I was asking Jennifer, who just came back from England, I said, like I know when you're very accomplished in England, they give you, they call you a knight and you're Sir so-and-so. I said, what is the appropriate term for the lady equivalent? And she said,
Dame. I believe it's Dame.
So I know we're going to have to research
Dame
this.
Yvonne Minus.
Yeah, we're going to have to research this further. But if anybody deserves that would be welcome to the show, Yvonne. How are you today?
God, thank you, Kerry. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here today, and with this beautiful lady, Miss Jennifer. So I'm in great company. So I want to thank you for allowing me to be here today.
No, I want to thank you because you did something very special and helped us so much when we were in. If you go back a little bit, you remember like about this time last year, it was like May or June, that we were announcing that we had been gifted this beautiful space. Dr. DeLegdish of Omni Healthcare said, I want to help you guys in what you're trying to do. I have some space. I'll make it available in my Omni building right there on the medical campus in downtown Melbourne. So 1344 South Apollo Drive. You've probably driven by it a million times, but we're right there. He gave us a really big part of the second floor, and we made ourselves home there, and we called it the Senior Resource Center of Brevard. This has been something that our president and founder, Joe Steckler, had wanted to do for years and years and years. In fact, from when he began, he told me, he said, Kerry, when I built the Joe's Clubs, he said, I actually had intended that we would do something like this in those buildings, because he said, we always have that expression, it takes a village to raise a child, but it really takes all of us if we're going to do right for our seniors. So he says, I want to get all the resources together in one place and make this happen. And Joe, through sheer will, starts asking everybody in the community who can help us with this. And Dr. DeLegdish stepped up and said, yes, I will help you with this. I'll help you guys make this possible. And so we began that journey really about this time last year. And so here we are a year later, but halfway into it, we were saying, Joe Steckler is going to celebrate his 90th birthday. Think about that. You're 90 and you still get up every day saying, we got to do more for seniors. We got to do more for seniors. And to the point that just this past month, the Brevard County Commissioners, in acknowledging Older Americans Month, acknowledged Joe Steckler as, I don't know if poster child is the right term, but the person that best represents what we would hope to become as we age in Brevard County. But when we were talking about how do we honor Joe's 90th birthday party, we'd all come up with the idea, let's name the Senior Resource Center of Brevard Joe's Senior Resource Center. So that's how we call it Joe's Senior Resource Center now. And I was talking with Yvonne at one of the Brevard Commission on Aging meetings, and she said, I've got an idea. Would you guys want me to do something officially from the city of Melbourne? And so we're, of course, please. And you came up with a proclamation that actually made that day, Joe Steckler Day, in the city of Melbourne. And that meant so much because not only did you organize and make that happen, but you were there. You took time out of your busy schedule to be there and honor Joe on that day. And I know how much that meant to him, and it meant to all of us. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely, Kerry. It was just I was just elated to do that, and at that function, it was just a light that lit up. Hey, this is perfect, to recognize this awesome young man for his birthday. And that is what we do, recognize anyone who have milestone birthdays. And the many things that Joe has done, it was just befitting to do that. And it was indeed my honor. Also, that second floor on the Omni building is very special to me, where I had two former doctors.
Oh, wow.
Dr. Torado and Dr. Biggs were just adjacent to where Joe's Club is located.
Wow.
So that floor is very, very special to me, which it just added to for me to just want to do that. And Joe is such an awesome young man. I was just elated to do it.
I love how she said that, a young man, because we had this conversation literally last week on the radio because we're talking about, it was not so long ago that on national TV they would stop down. Remember, I think his name was Willard Scott, and he would stop and recognize whoever in the country was turning 100. Remember how they would do that big? And now when you talk to almost anybody that's involved in senior care, whether it be an assisted living facility or a lot of times some of your clients that work with you in home health care, it's really becoming, I don't want to say commonplace, but it's really pretty amazing that there are so many people who are 100 plus now. Like Jennifer, I know you guys have had experience. Like I think like 80 is the new 60, 100 is probably the new 80 or something.
It really is, and my definition of old has definitely increased as I've gotten older. But you see, I love it when we get a 97-year-old that will call and say, "Hey, I just stopped driving, and I guess I need a little help." At 97. Boy, that's who I want to be. We have a lady that is coming in on May 30th and doing a speaking engagement for us.
Yes, talk about that.
And she is 100 years old, and she'll be on 101 this June. And again, oh my gosh, I want to be her when I grow up because she's still so engaged with the community and so acute and so full of life that I am just in awe of her.
Yeah, talk about that, because we've been posting this. I know you guys have been from the Seniors Helping Seniors, but we also were sharing it out because it's an event that's happening at the Joe Senior Resource Center, right?
Yes, it's going to be May 30th at 11 o'clock, and May is Holocaust Remembrance Month, and she is an amazing lady who has survived where much of her family did not. And so she is going to be talking about the history of that but also the inspiration of what followed. They came here to the United States, and she immediately started working for the USO. So she's just got an amazing, uplifting story of survival, and her outlook is just amazing. She's got such a positive outlook. I'm in awe of her.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys what you think about this, because I've often said that the term senior, like if you advance in your career, they call you whatever your job is. I'm an accountant. Now I'm the senior accountant. Now, if you advance in your career, I was a junior assistant. Now I'm the senior, and it really has that connotation of I have the experience, I have the knowledge, and you should listen to what I have to say. We don't take that advice often enough, do we?
No, unfortunately.
Absolutely right. No, we don't. Everyone knows everything, much younger than you are. But yet they know everything. So wise counsel is always good.
Oh, absolutely.
And the older, you're more experienced, and definitely you have more to offer. But yet, if you get a 50 or 60-year-old that knows more than you, then you just step back and let them handle it.
Yeah. What's that expression? This ain't your first rodeo, right?
It's not my first rodeo.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. But as we talk about the challenges that seniors face, and that's really why Joe wanted to create Helping Seniors of Brevard, he said, Kerry, what I discovered was that many families are challenged with memories, cognition and those kind of areas. But he said many families don't face that, but all families are facing all the challenges that come along with aging, because there is no way to prepare for it. It's on the job training, if you think about it. And the best you can hope to do is get schooled, study up in it, and get involved and do things that make a difference. So I wanted to maybe begin here as somebody who has had a full career in the business world in doing what you did corporately with IT and all that, but then because I was reading your background, and you're active in your church, you're active in your community, and then you also take on the political world and all of these things. That has to be fulfilling, but what is it, Yvonne, that kind of called you into all that?
Oh, that's a loaded question. But definitely, many years ago, I joined the Citizens Advisory Board on this for the city of Melbourne, and I was on that board for 12 years, and I really enjoyed helping the community. At that point, we were talking to the different nonprofits and dividing up the funds that we had. So I really enjoyed that. And I was also, like you said, involved in my church where I'm on my usher ministry, the president for our usher ministry, and several other auxiliaries. And I believe that too much is given, much is required.
Yes.
And so doing that, then I conversed a lot with the council members back then, and I just enjoyed. And then I started going to the council meetings, and then I was just encouraged to go from my family members as well as some of the council members. So, and that's how I got my foot in the door. And it's just a passion for me to help the community, help my fellow man. That's what I believe my calling is.
I think it's interesting because we talk about in Brevard County, there's really three. I have a ministry friend who talks about there's three kind of like platforms that kind of control what goes on in any location. He talks a lot about businesses, because businesses are necessary then to create the commerce, which then creates the flow, the employment, and all those things. He talks about the importance, of course, about education, because what happens there impacts what happens to the future generations. And then he talks about government, because government is the place that creates all the rules, all the tries to create order for us to live up under. And he and I have had a lot of conversations. Well, it's pretty easy, because if you do well in business, you're rewarded financially. If you're doing education, I think that's a tough job, but hopefully you're being rewarded as you see people grow up and make good contributions. But I really think one of the most thankless jobs is when you choose government, because you're always trying to. I think of it like herding cats. I don't know if that's the right way to put it or not, but I think it takes a very special character just to be able to be willing to take that seat and stand up there and say, well, we got to make some decisions. How are we going to do this?
Right. You're absolutely right. Herding cattle, cats, and anything else. But definitely, it takes a very good disposition in order to serve. You may have some who are serving for the wrong reasons, and you're not serving the community. And that's what the community, the residents are the ones who voted for you and elected you to serve them, not to serve yourself. And once you find out that you're serving yourself, then you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Boy, that's so well said. And, I see it just in the way you volunteer. You're quick to always say, like when you see something going on, you'll make a note of it. I'm going to try to get by there. You went out of your way to help us when we were trying to honor Joe. But I see the same, Jennifer. I see how you do that too. You're always like the first one to say, let me try to help these guys get this, whether it's like I've seen you get involved in like different 5K walks and different things, and you're always like the first up on the starting line to say, let's help keep this going.
I try, but boy, I think I have a new mentor now. Because I was looking over, I knew about some of the things that Yvonne's done, but I was looking over that list. Kerry had shared it with me right before we went on air. And I looked at Yvonne and said, oh my gosh, when do you sleep?
Yeah.
Very very little time. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But I do believe this. When you're on assignment, I always joke, is it because, come out of the corporate world, and I think I work harder now in the nonprofit world than I did in the corporate world. But, I think it's more fulfilling because you feel like you're doing something that's important and you're making a difference. But also because it's a passion, then, it's work, but it's important work. I don't know if I'm saying that in a way that makes sense. So even when we're talking about Jennifer, in your business, when you hire seniors to help seniors, that's one of the things that you take. I love how I've heard you describe it before. We want somebody with the heart of a volunteer who doesn't mind accepting a paycheck. And what a neat thing, because they're also giving back from their own experiences. They come in and help other seniors.
Oh, absolutely. We really try very hard to make sure that we have that heart of a volunteer, because they're doing it because they want to do it, not because they have to do it.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference. And so many of our caregivers will tell me after they've, had a few clients that, oh my gosh, I almost feel guilty. One of them said, I almost feel guilty because I feel like I'm getting more out of it than the client is, which is a beautiful thing.
Well, we're going to continue this conversation, making life better for seniors, with our special guest, Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors, and Yvonne Minus. Jennifer, real quick before we get to the center part of this, what's the number if somebody wants to find out more about Seniors Helping Seniors?
I can be reached at 321-722-2999.
Okay. And when we come to the second half of the Helping Seniors show, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this topic of making things better for seniors. So stick around for the second half of Helping Seniors Radio. We'll be right back.
And at 12:33 in the afternoon, everyone's kind of enjoying that music as we get back into Helping Seniors of Brevard. And to do that, let me reintroduce the host of the show and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Kerry?
Hey, John Harper. Good to be back for the second half of the radio show right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And thanks, too, if you're listening online at WEJF.net. And if you're continuing on the podcast, thank you for listening through. And by the way, if you're just tuning in, you missed a great first half, and that's okay because you didn't miss it, because in a day or so we'll have this out on helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. We post everything we do, whether it's TV, radio, the things that we publish, Joe's articles and all the newspapers, they all are right there for you to access. And then, of course, we put the radio broadcasts out as podcasts, so you can find a podcast, go back, listen to the first part. You can also find us on YouTube, and you can find us on Facebook, because we make this available. Because one of the things we've learned along the way is people oftentimes will search out topics when it becomes relevant to them. A good example would be somebody may not be thinking much about a reverse mortgage until they are suddenly thinking much about a reverse mortgage, and then they want to get information, so they'll start asking their computer to help them find some materials. And again, like we were talking about at the outset of the show, it's really important to cultivate and figure out good local trusted resources. And that's why when Joe Steckler founded Helping Seniors, that was his whole idea was we need resources in the community that people can know and trust and take full use of so that they can maximize their success in senior years. Joe has always called it an aging plan. We euphemistically call it getting your ducks in a row, because what we're trying to do, aging plan seems very serious, and sometimes we're not even sure what it means. I think those of us in Florida kind of get it because we understand a hurricane plan. You don't want the storm, you just want to be prepared and know what you do if it's headed your way. An aging plan is much the same idea. We're just trying to talk about those things ahead of time that can make the journey smoother and easier, even if it takes a sidebar that you don't really want to take. You want to be prepared for it. So with that, we have a couple of excellent people in the studio who are very much subject matter experts. One is a longtime friend of the Helping Seniors. She serves on our volunteer board of directors, very accomplished business person in her own right, Jennifer Barton, Seniors Helping Seniors.
Good to be back.
And I still don't hear a British accent.
No British accent.
So I'm only teasing her because she got to spend like a week and plus days in jolly old England.
Yes, it was. We were supposed to go in 2020 for my parents' 60th anniversary, and it didn't happen, unfortunately, because of COVID. So we finally got the whole family together, and we went this year. So we were celebrating their 64th anniversary, and my dad's kind of bucket list trip, since he is a bit of a historian and a sailor. So we did a lot of climbing around on ships, and he's 87 years old now. But boy, when you were climbing around the HMS Warrior, there was no
87 in there.
No, he climbed all over that ship.
Oh, wow. It's such a fun travel. And, by the way, that just proves that it's funny because literally in June, a bunch of us are going out on the Helping Seniors Foundation cruise, which was the kind of the brainchild of another one of our board members. His name is Chris Morse, and he's a travel agent who, by his own admission, has been doing travel since dinosaurs roamed the earth. And he and his wife, Betty, they are terrific because he says not only is his own particular passion helping seniors travel, but they're both special needs certified, so they really enjoy helping people travel who maybe thought traveling days were over and or who thought maybe it's not safe to travel at this point. And they really love that part. So he came to us, this is actually going to be our fourth Helping Seniors Foundation cruise, and we're going out June 9th on the MSC Seashore. And the way he sets it up, everything is local. So we just go down to the port here in Canaveral. We don't have to hop on a bus and go down to South Florida or get on an airplane to get to a cruise ship. We just go to our port, which keeps getting bigger by the day, and get on this lovely MSC ship and have a week together. And I love telling the story because when you were talking about your dad being 87, having a ball in England, I remember the very first cruise that we did, our oldest traveler was 93, a 93-year-old lady, and she was traveling by herself. But you understand she wasn't traveling by herself because there was like another 140 people who were in the same group, plus she's traveling with her own personal travel agents on board because they're there to run interference or anything that happens on the ship or any needs that come up. They're right there with us. So the Helping Seniors Travel Club cruise is great fun. So we're going out June 9th. I don't know or think that there's space left if anybody wants to go last minute. But if you're interested, I'm going to give you a number. You can call 321-473-7770. That's the Helping Seniors info line. You can call us really about anything. But if you'd like information on that, either Nancy or Karen can fill you in because we're going to do that again in January, Jennifer. And if you're not in England, then you need to plan to bring your whole office with us or something. It's going to be fun. And you were actually on one of them. You were on like the very first one, right?
I did. I wasn't the first one. I think the second one I did a weekend, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't mean to take us off topic, except to just say that, part of making life better for seniors, which is our topic for today, is everybody's circumstances are a little bit different, and some people are a little bit more challenged health-wise than other people. But when we all work together, we can make the best out of anything. And that's why I wanted to not only introduce Jennifer, but I wanted to really welcome back our special guest, who is Yvonne Minus. And I don't know, do they call it, I always get this confused. I know, like with elected officials, you call them the honorable. So are you the Honorable Yvonne Minus, or what's the correct? She's the vice mayor of the city of Melbourne. And beyond that, spends so much time volunteering in so many areas that are of benefit to seniors. What do we call you?
Yvonne Minus.
And she's humble too.
Yes. All elected officials are identified as honorable, and some are hung up on the honorable, but I am an humble servant. And yes, just call me Yvonne. Just don't call me late for dinner, okay, for the fried oysters. But definitely, I am an humble servant.
Yeah, but let's talk about seniors. You know, we were just talking during the break that in our county, we have 25% of our population is really 65 or over. And I always also explain that in our county, 1 out of 2 of us is over the age of 50. And if you don't believe that's a senior, AARP will prove it to you by sending you a card on your birthday. And so my point is, I have this saying is that if you live in Brevard County, you either are a senior, love and care for a senior, or give it a year or two, you're going to be a senior. So hopefully everything that we're talking about has meaning for you. But not only are there more seniors for several reasons. Number one, as the boomers are all turning 65, they're all becoming seniors. But also the other thing that happens is people are just flat living longer. So where we were talking about in the first half of the show, if you were, this was literally 25 years ago when we were in New York City in our corporate business and we were serving a senior population there. And we would make the statistical analogy that in 1900, if you were 50, statistically, you were dead. I mean, it was just where life expectancy was. And at that time, and I haven't checked the statistic, but I would bet it's probably still the same, that 85 plus was the fastest growing demographic by percentage. Why? Because we didn't have 85-year-olds that were able to clamber around ships in England, 30 years ago. It's just people are living longer. So we get more seniors that way. And then the third factor, as you guys know, is our area is just growing up. There's more and more people moving here every week. That's why you see all these places being built and all those kind of things. So we're having more seniors. How do we tackle making sure that we can make a good environment for seniors? And I know that's like a loaded question, Yvonne, because you're kind of on the forefront. You have to look at all these matters that come before you. Somebody wants to develop something. Somebody is asking for permission to do this. How do you balance the need for seniors, or how do you try to make sure that as we take steps as a community that we're keeping all of that in mind?
God, that definitely is another loaded question. But yes, our seniors are very important to the city of Melbourne. I say to Brevard County. And in order to balance that, we have to look at what their needs are. And being on the many boards and listening in the audience, there are many needs that they have. Workforce housing. Mm-hmm. We look at what they need. I was in a meeting yesterday where we listened to several nonprofits mm-hmm. who are working with the seniors helping seniors, mm-hmm. Aging Matters, mm-hmm. Family Promise of Brevard, mm-hmm. and several others who are definitely helping our community and to divvy out or to award those organizations as much as possible to balance out what they need or what we could give of the $207,000, which is just a drop in the bucket. But we did the best we could. But we definitely want to support and help our seniors the best that we can. Also, in one of our meetings, Brevard Commission on Aging, mm-hmm. where several residents came from Merritt Island. Mm-hmm. It was a cry for help.
Yes.
That they were being put out of their homes, if you will. Doesn't matter whether it was a trailer or a brick home, but they were put out, and our hearts ached knowing, trying to help them in getting housing. You have the developers who come in, purchase the property, and then kick out those seniors, and so that leaves it on many of the local organizations to try their best to help them, and that is where we come in. And I really enjoy being on the Brevard Commission on Aging board, to try to help them as much as possible.
Yeah, I learn so much every time I go to one of those meetings. And Jennifer, because you literally see Nancy and Karen when they're on the phone. And I was saying this just yesterday that we had 5,450 plus calls last year coming in on that helpline. And what we discovered was, in each month at the board, Nancy gives us a report of where the needs in the community are, and universally almost, I think, for year after year. And I made this point, like when Joe first started this organization, it was mainly about things like I need help to get to the doctor's office, or some question legally about what do I do about this situation. There was like that. But over the past few years, as property values have skyrocketed, now housing is the runaway. 60% of the calls seem to be coming in about that. We get calls about everything else: medical, legal, financial, transportation, you name it, we get a call about it. But this housing thing has really become kind of a critical thing. And so we're all putting our heads together. We've created a housing task force where our idea is not to complain about it, but to see if we can come up with solutions. And I know Nancy and the team that works on it, they're working with resources in the community. There's no magic answer, but they'll try to figure out as a roommate situation as possible. There's all kinds of things we have to do to address those things. Jennifer, you see that kind of close-up ringside view too.
I do, and sometimes I'm seeing it with my caregivers. My own caregivers who are seniors themselves have been living in a house or living in a complex for 20 years, and now all of a sudden the rent has gone sky high, and they're looking for more affordable housing. So it's across the board, across demographics of who this is hurting. So it's definitely a problem here in Brevard County. I know it's nationwide. It's not just us. But I'm so glad we have people like Yvonne on the council that are working, to help our seniors.
Yeah, I wanted to say that we were up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, literally 2 weeks ago on vacation, and so we're having a little tour because I've never been to Halifax before, and they were talking about that they had this problem up there, and it was like the tour guide was like showing us the beautiful city and all this, but then explaining that because the housing prices have gone up so much post-COVID, that they're experiencing a problem which I guess is new to them in Canada. Can't imagine with the weather in Canada that these poor guys are becoming homeless. And so I know it's not exclusive to our neighborhood and jurisdiction, but it seems to be a real challenge. And I always think it's kind of tragic that we can't do better for our seniors, because these are the ones who paid taxes and supported and made everything possible all along the way. So collectively, we have to lead a charge to say that if we're going to make life better for seniors, we got to reduce housing insecurity as we go along. That's not really the point I wanted to get to so much, except that I was thinking something else that you said. We were just invited to participate last week. A good friend of ours, Lois Thomas with Career Source Brevard, she did a wonderful back to work 50 plus job fair, and they held it actually at Career Source right here in Brevard. She goes, this is the first time that we're going to try this. Usually they go to like a resource center, like I think we were up at one that they did up in Rockledge some time back. But she said to me, because we were there and we were amazed at the number of people who were coming out. And I said, what's great is because going back to work will give them fulfillment, but for many of them, it may give them the resources they need to solve this housing problem in their own lives. But she said, Kerry, there's so many people here, I'm not going to be able to host this here again, because it literally was so many people coming through there. But Jennifer, that's one of the advantages of what your company does. You're a hiring solution.
We are, because we're a great part-time position for someone who's retired, and maybe they are feeling that crunch a little bit and saying, oh gosh, I'm going through my retirement funds way faster than I thought I would. I need to supplement. And we can put them to work and keep them as busy as they want to be. You know, it could be 1 day a week. It could be 5 days a week. It just really depends on, you know, how busy they want to be, how energetic they are, how far away they want to go from home. We usually try to keep people 5 to 10 miles from where they live, so they, you know, are in their own familiar area. But it's definitely, and we're always looking for gentlemen too. Now I'm looking at Yvonne's husband.
He qualifies. Yes, he does.
Yeah, we love to hire gentlemen because a lot of times men will prefer to have another male in the house for companionship. You know, they're surrounded by ladies all day telling them what to do, and so they'd rather just go out and, you know, have some guy time. So we encourage that as well.
So, and you guys help with so many things. I know you help seniors get to transportation that's needed. Sometimes you'll help them figure out meal shopping, all kinds of different things. Sometimes it's things around the house. Sometimes it's just helping around the house and things like that. What are the kind of things that you find a lot of times the people that work with you are asked to help with?
Common for us is transportation to and from doctor's appointments, grocery store. We can do medication reminders. We can do meals. You know, as we get older, we don't really feel like cooking anymore, and maybe we're not as hungry as we used to be. So we notice that seniors will lose weight. So we'll come in and make sure that they've got some good, nutritious meals, give them a med reminder. And sometimes we're just taking them out. I had a call this morning from a son who they take care of the doctor's appointments and the grocery store runs, but mom's home alone all day. She doesn't drive anymore, so she's home all the rest of that time. He says, I know it's not good for her. So they want us to come in at least 2 days a week just to take her out, you know, do errands, go shopping, go to a movie, play cards, keep her social, keep her active.
You know, and I remember we talked about this a lot during COVID, that you really are the hands and feet and eyes and ears for adult children who may not be in the area, but mom or dad lives down here, and they're really depending on you guys to help kind of keep up with what's going on, because you not only do you help them where they're at, but you're also in a position to observe and say, okay, here's what might be going on. We need to take another step and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. We have a fairly new client that the kids are up north, and they came down, and they call on a regular basis. How's everything? Fine. Everything's good. You know, no problem. So then they got down here and realized that 90% of the light bulbs in the house had burnt out.
Oh, no.
And they couldn't get up to fix them. They said, if we had known, we would have sent somebody over. But mom and dad just always said, you know, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. They didn't want to bother them. So they brought us in to be specifically those eyes and ears. They said, well, we'll help however we can, but they can't leave the north where they have jobs and kids, but they want someone at least, you know, a couple times a week to come in and just make sure that everything really is okay.
Yeah, you know, Yvonne, we were talking about this during the first half of the show about how seniors should be probably respected and listened to a lot more than they are. But the other thing is seniors typically are kind of stoic, right? They're not really complainers. They're not the first one to go. They're more, you know, we saw this even during COVID. I couldn't believe this. When people were stuck at home, the calls to the helpline shot through the roof. But one of the most amusing calls, it's serious, so I'm not saying amusing like ha ha ha, but it was so unexpected that seniors wanted to make sure that they could feed their pets before they would feed themselves. Do you know, it's like they're just giving like that. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. They care more for their four-legged fur baby than they would for themselves, and they definitely want to make sure that baby was taken care of. And we find that a lot during the hurricanes and all, when we are, I say the city of Melbourne, when we are placing the families into the shelters, they are, again, more concerned about that fur baby than they are about themselves. Make sure my baby is taken care of. So it's definitely a large problem with our seniors in trying to keep them housed and their fur baby as well.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's one of the reasons why a company like Jennifer's is good for this. If somebody says, and there's real quick, I want to bring this in because you guys are kind of like on the forefront of technology because you do a thing called electronic caregiver, which is using the technology to try to help keep seniors safe. And it's pretty affordable, and it really assists everybody in making sure that seniors stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Our minimum is 2 hours once a week. So there are times when that's all we see the person is just 1 2-hour stint every week. And other than that, they might be home alone. So we realized pretty quickly having a backup system would be a really good thing. We had the unfortunate blessing one time of we were supposed to be in on July 4th and the caregiver forgot she wasn't supposed to go and she went anyway. Thank God she did because the lady had fallen.
Lord.
And if she would have been on the floor for 3 or 4 days before we were supposed to come back in. So it was a very happy accident that the caregiver forgot and went in because she found her, called 911, and was able to get help right away. The longer you're on the floor, the worse the prognosis is.
Yes.
So we really started looking and researching for a product that would help keep our seniors safe even when we weren't around or when the kids weren't around. And we found the electronic caregiver. And what I loved about that piece is not only does it work at the house, but it works if they go out of the house. So they're not confined to home. They can take it, put it in their pocket, and walk through the whole entire neighborhood. They can, if they're still driving, take it with them to Walmart. Wherever they go, it goes. And so that's what we really loved about it, is it really helps keep those seniors that are, maybe kind of on the borderline. They can still go out and they can still be social and active, just with a little extra peace of mind. And there is, of course, an app for that. There's where the technology comes in. The kids can see where mom and dad are.
Cool.
They can send them reminders. They can schedule it to do a medication reminder every morning at 8 a.m. or a blood pressure reminder at 10 a.m. So it's a pretty cool technology that's just really designed to help keep people at home and safe.
How neat. Well, we're about to wind up, but I wanted to make sure people knew a number. Maybe they want a job. Maybe they want to see about employment there. Maybe they want to get help at home, or maybe they want to find out about electronic caregiver. How do they reach?
We can be reached at 321-722-2999. Of course, we're on the web and on Facebook and social media, so you can see us there as well.
Or come see us at Joe's Senior Resource Center
Yes.
of Brevard. And Yvonne Minus with City of Melbourne Vice Mayor, thank you for joining us. Do you have final thoughts as we're talking about making life better for seniors?
Joe, I'm sorry, Kerry.
Yes.
I'm thinking about Joe.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely been an honor for me to be here, and I really appreciate.
I hope you'll come back.
I definitely will come back. Just invite me, and I will get rid of some of this the stuff that I'm doing, and I'll make sure that I come. As coming to the end of my second term as city council member and vice mayor, it's definitely an honor for me to serve the city of Melbourne. But yes, in November, I will be termed out. We have 2 4-year terms. This is 8 years.
Wow.
And I was appointed in 2014 during the unfortunate demise of Harry Good. So those 6 council members appointed me to serve. So I've served about 9 3/4
Wow.
years on council, and then plus the 12 and the many other organizations. But I will be running for Brevard County Commission, District 3.
Good.
Also, so I'm still want to do great things for the community, and I want to work now on the county level.
Love
so
it.
just remember minus, not plus, but minus for Brevard County.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here today. We'll see you next week right back here for Helping Seniors Radio. Till then, have a great week.